I hope you are enjoying these last precious few days of our winter break. I'm so excited that we get to come together and read a little bit. I was just going back. We know there's a lot happening in this book all of the time, so I was going back to think about, as readers do, what happened when we last read, and Zan is working on some sort of concoction, some sort of solution, magic potion to help support Luna in her really, really powerful magic. So let's see what happens next. I'm continuing here on my lucky number 2 times 77, about halfway down the page. Finally, Zan threw the doors of the workshop wide open, a look of grim satisfaction on her face. "You see," she explained to a very skeptical Glurk as she drew a large chalk circle on the ground, leaving a gap open to pass through. She drew 13 evenly spaced marks along the circumference of the circle, which is the outside of the circle, and used them to map out the points of a 13-point star. "In the end, all we are doing is setting a clock. Each day ticks by like the perfect whirring of a well-tuned gear. You see?" Glurk shook his head. He did not see. Zan marked out the time along the almost complete circle, a neat and orderly progression. "It's a 13-year cycle. That's all the spell will allow, and less than that. In our case, I'm afraid, the whole mechanism synchronizes to her own biology. Not much I can do about that. She's already 5, so the clock will set itself to 5, and will go off when she reaches 13. Interesting. Glurk squinted. None of this made any sense to him, of course. Magic itself always felt like nonsense to the swamp monster. If you hear people screaming, that would be my children and my husband upstairs playing football in the playroom, which is very loud. Hopefully it's not too distracting. It's kind of distracting to me, though. I'll just ignore that. Magic was not mentioned in the song that built the world, but rather had arrived in the world much later. In the light from the stars and the moon, magic to him always felt like an interloper, an uninvited guest. Glurk much preferred poetry. We know this about him, don't we? I love that about Glurk. "I'll be using the same principle as a protective cocoon that she sleeps in. All that magic is kept inside. But in this case, it will be inside her, right at the front of her brain, behind the center of her forehead. I can keep it contained and tiny, a grain of sand. All that power is a grain of sand. Can you imagine?" Glurk said nothing. He gazed down at the child in his arms. She didn't move. "It won't," he began. His voice was thick. He cleared his throat and started again. "It won't ruin things, will it? I think I rather like her brain. I would like to see it unharmed." "Oh, piffle," Zan admonished. That's a mouthful. "Her brain will be perfectly fine. At least, I'm more than fairly sure it will be fine." "Zan!" "Oh, I'm only kidding. Of course she'll be fine. This will simply buy us some time to make sure that she has the good sense to know what to do with her magic once it is unleashed." "She needs to be educated. She needs to know the contents of those books. She needs to understand the movements of the stars and the origins of the universe and the requirements of kindness. She needs to know mathematics and poetry. She must ask questions. She must seek to understand. She must understand the laws of cause and effect and unintended consequences. She must learn compassion and curiosity and awe." These are all very important things to learn, don't you think? "All of these things, we have to instruct her, Glurk, all 3 of us. It is our great responsibility." The air in the room became suddenly heavy. Zan grunted as she pushed the chalk through the last edges of the 13-point star. Even Glurk, who normally wouldn't be affected, found himself both sweaty and nauseous. "And what about you?" Glurk said. "Will the siphoning of your magic stop?" Zan shrugged. "It will slow, I expect." She pressed her lips together, "little bit by bit by bit, and then she will turn 13, and it will flow out all at once. No more magic. I will be an empty vessel with nothing left to keep these old bones moving, and then I'll be gone." This is very sad to imagine. Zan is sort of sacrificing herself for this child. That makes me realize how much she really cares and loves this child. Zan's voice was quiet and smooth like the surface of the swamp, and lovely as a swamp is lovely. Glurk felt an ache in his chest. Zan attempted to smile. Still, if I had my druthers, it's better to leave her orphaned after I can teach her a thing or two. Get her raised up properly. Prepare her, and I'd rather go all at once instead of wasting away like poor Zosimos. Death is always sudden, Glurk said. His eyes had begun to itch, even when it isn't. He wanted to clasp Zan in his third and fourth arms, but he knew the witch wouldn't stand for it. So he held Luna a little bit closer instead. As Zan began to unwind the magical cocoon, the little girl smacked her lips together, like when we're waking up, stretching her mouth a few times and cuddled in close to his damp chest, warming him through. Her black hair shone like the night sky. She slept deeply. Glurk looked at the shape on the ground. There was still an open walkway for him to pass through with the girl. Once Luna was in place, so we're talking about the giant clock that has been drawn on the ground, and Glurk was safely outside the chalk rim, Zan would complete the circle, and the spell would begin. He hesitated. You sure, Zan? He said. Are you very, very sure? Yes. Assuming I've done this right, the Seed of Magic will open on her 13th birthday. We don't know the exact day, of course, but we can make our guesses. That's when her magic will come, and that's when I will go. It's enough. I've already outlasted any reasonable allotment of life on Earth, and I'm ever so curious to know what comes next. Come, let's begin. The air smelled of milk and sweat and baking bread. Then sharp spice and skinned knees and damp hair. Then working muscles and soapy skin and clear mountain pools. And something else, too. A dark, strange, earthy smell. And Luna cried out just once. And Glurk felt a crack in his heart. As thin as a pencil line, he pressed his 4 hands to his chest, trying to keep it from breaking in half. Wow, so this is intense. That's the end of chapter 11. And now we have the solution has been set. I hope Zan is a powerful enough witch to make sure that this solution is going to work. It seems like they are going to be able to put Luna's magic on pause until she turns 13. So that Luna can learn everything that she needs to know about life. It seems like maybe not enough time. When we get to the end of the clock, when we get to her 13th birthday, that's when Zan has said that she is then going to pass away, which seems so sad. But in the meantime, it seems like we have a solution in place. So I'm thinking Luna's going to be waking up. I wonder if you're thinking the same thing. Next, we'll start Chapter 12, which is called In Which a Child Learns About the Bog. So it looks like Luna will be back, and I'm wondering if she's going to be as troublesome and curious as she was before the cocoon. But in the meantime, have lots of fun with your families. Know that I miss you. I'm very proud of you for continuing our book together. I can't wait to see you soon, and I love you all. Bye!